Greetings, kindred. So here we are starting this video with a map of the eclipse that's taking place on the 8th of April. So I wanted to talk about this first before we get into the astrology, because we also have a comet coming into perihelion with the sun as well at the same time, and that comet's Pons Brooks. So I've been following this comet for about a year now. And yeah, I've been watching some other people's videos on it and, just seeing all different aspects of, how people were perceiving this. But what really stood out to me when I opened up this map was this to me, it looks like the sound wave, the Ophiuchus symbol. I'll show you the Ophiuchus symbol. So here's the Ophiuchus symbol. Just put it side by side. Just bear with me. Yeah, you see, Ophiuchus is actually the serpent bearer, also represents the dragon and the serpent people, the phoenix, because it's in this the house of Ophiuchus where we ascend, whether that be spiritually or physically. And yeah, I just found it really stood out to me. And I just feel the Ophiuchus energy is going to be very strong through this time. Let's just shut that down a minute. Let's open this up again. So the eclipse actually goes through central North America, but the eclipse actually takes place in the sign of Pisces in true lifetime sky astrology. So this isn't Western astrology, it's not tropical. It is astronomical, but it's the calculations I use are from an independent astronomer, scientist, and astrologer, Walter Berg. So he actually brought to light in the late 70s that there was actually a 13th star sign that sat on the ecliptic that wasn't really being included in the Zodiac. So he brought this to light, here in the Western world, no one wanted to accept it. And even today, it's a struggle in people accepting it. Only it's fact. If we look at the astronomy, I mean, if we're looking at astrology charts, we're looking at how the energies play out between planets or planets in signs, and we can already see how the sun affects the earth, how the moon affects the earth, how eclipses affect the earth, comets, asteroids. So, it's important that, we're actually dealing with the energy of what these planets are kind of emitting. And it's not like, oh, they all emit and they only affect the Earth. The whole solar system affects, it's like a domino effect. And we're all a part of that. So when I draw up an astrology chart, I'm actually doing it from the Earth's perspective, looking up into the sky. But the way the planets are situated are as the sky is looking downwards on the Earth. So it's called location. That's why it's important that we put in the location of where we're drawing the chart from, because then we get the exact mirror imaging of the sky above us. I mean, I just found it very interesting anyway, about the shape, the elongated shape of it as well. It's definitely a sound wave to me. So I would definitely say sound baths, sound therapies, chanting, singing, voicing. I feel that would be very, very healing throughout this solar eclipse coming up. So the actual solar eclipse eclipse represents like more the external, the physical, the masculine energy, whereas the lunar is more the internal, feminine energy. I mean, both are shadow energies, so they both activate the Black Moon Lilith in our charts. So whether your Black Moon Lilith is, that's what you should be taking note of throughout the eclipses in general. Maybe where Pluto is stationed in your chart. But the true form of dark energy is sitting within the shadow, in the stillness, to reflect, to see, you know, internally what's going on, whereas the light is more about the higher self. See, the dark is about the soul. The light is more about, you know, the higher self. And we know also that the Ophiuchian energy holds the Kundalini, holds that, you know, the rising of the serpent, the rising of the phoenix, where we're reborn. You know, that's why we get reborn Christians. And, you know, when we go into rebirth, there's always a spiritual aspect that's connected to that, or some form of enlightenment. You know, so I just feel that where we have the lunar eclipse, we're going within ourselves, we're doing a lot of reflecting, maybe we're facing things like our shadow energy or things that we've been through in life. But then by the time we reach the solar eclipse, it's like it's a dark energy where we don't see clearly as such, but there's a lot of triggering energy going on. It's where the energy starts to become active and where we start kind of omitting all the darker energies within us. Now, with some people, this is where the Kundalini energy really kind of kicks in. So it's like the soul rising to meet the higher self where the twin flame union occurs. And I just feel there's going to be a lot of that going on throughout, you know, this eclipse and onwards, to be honest. And I feel that's been going on for a long while anyway. But I just feel there's something about to emerge and it's going to be pretty big. And we do have Mercury in retrograde as well in Pisces, where, you know, we're feeling something, but we can't just quite put our finger on what it is that we're feeling, or, you know, like there's this sense of loss around that energy. So I really do feel we need to get into our organic psychic senses, like our gut intuition or any dreams that might be activated during this time. And when I get into the astrology, it'll make more sense about that. But again, you know, I would definitely say sound therapies, sound baths, music, chanting, praying, you know, whatever your thing is, really. You know, so much confusion can be had in the solar eclipse because, like, you know, we're in a very confused society already, and we have been for the last 4 years. And yeah, so with Mercury retrograding in Pisces, and Mercury actually started his full retrograde mode on the 1st of April, I have written an article about the 3 phases of the Mercury retrograde, and that is linked below in the description box for those of you that haven't already read that. But, you know, there's can be a lot of confusion around this time. But there's a lot going on externally. So I think it's just a time really just to, you know, keep your wits around you. Just stay in peace, really. And I think we should really take the time out to enjoy these times because it is a time of stillness. And I know some don't feel comfortable in stillness, but for those that have kind of reached certain heights when it comes to their knowledge or their spirituality. It's, we enjoy that stillness, we enjoy that quiet time, because a lot of information can come in, although it don't make sense to us at the time we're receiving it. It will do at a later date. So, yeah, I just found that quite fascinating. So the eclipse actually begins overall, and I'm talking on a global scale. So it begins at 1542 UTC. So convert the UTC time zone to your own to know the exact time in your time zone. Or go to timeanddate.com actually. Time and date can give you the times and the times that, the lunar eclipse, or probably the maximum of the lunar eclipse you want to look out for, which is like 1817 UTC. So the max of the lunar eclipse is probably the one people would be more interested in. And that's at 1817 UTC. So convert that to your own time zone. And, completely come to an end at 2052 in the UTC time zone. Now, the new moon actually begins 3 minutes after the lunar eclipse has reached its maximum, I should say. So there's 3 minutes in between the solar eclipse and the new moon. So 3 is the number of Jupiter. And it's all about expansion. Solar eclipses are all about expansion as well. So I definitely feel there's something being expanded on here. And we just have to watch out and see what that is. But I would just say definitely follow your gut instinct throughout this time, because we can quite easily jump to conclusions about things. And I do feel there's a lot of information coming in as well, because solar eclipses are also about transmission. So yeah, I just feel, just stay in peace within yourselves and just be very observant really of what you're feeling, or, and as information comes in, just kind of like log it, but don't react to it right now. Do you know what I mean? I think we all need to reflect first. So let's look at the comet. So this is where the comet Pons-Brooks will be situated at the solar eclipse. Now the sun is actually just down here in the sign of Pisces, and but Jupiter and Uranus are coming into their 14-year conjunction, but that won't be until the 21st of April. Now, on the same day, Pons-Brooks hasn't touched the ecliptic yet, but Pons-Brooks is coming into perihelion with the sun. And, so this is where Pons-Brooks will be situated at the time of the solar eclipse. So it could very well be that as the skies go dark, we will get a really good image of this comet, especially since it's not in complete, an exact perihelion at the moment. It's coming into perihelion, but it's not quite there yet. But it is swooping past Jupiter, and Jupiter is coming into conjunction with Uranus. Now, there's only 6 degrees here between Pons-Brooks and Jupiter. So, that's pretty close. 6 degrees is pretty close. 6 degrees would be classed as a conjunction. So I do feel like, again, Jupiter's all about expansion and information, expanding on philosophy, expanding on, he represents religion, philosophy, culture, travel. Do you know what I mean? So I just feel that there's some kind of something going on here. Now, it could be we could feel earth tremors, either with the volcanoes or earthquakes. And that's quite common actually around, comet activity. Do you know what I mean? So we may kind of witness that as well. So yeah, I just feel, let's look at when see, Ponsbrook actually comes into contact with the ecliptic on the 11th. Let's look at that image. So this is the 11th of April. Now this is GMT time zone. So in the AEDT, it could be on the 5th. I would say it would be on the 5th, but in the EDT, it will be on the 4th. And this is when, you know, Ponsbrook's comes onto the ecliptic, and, you know, with Jupiter and Uranus there. I mean, this is only, again, this is like 8, 9, 10, 3 degrees, 3 days. Again, the number 3, I was talking about that a little while ago. But anyway, so 3 days later, Ponsbrook touches the ecliptic. Now, to me, the ecliptic is actually the sun's energy. It's solar energy. It's the path of the sun. And, you know, the sun will still be on the 11th in Pisces, just down here. But I just feel on the 11th is where we're more than likely to feel some earth tremors, or where things really do escalate just after the eclipse, so 3 days after the eclipse. But also, I feel there'll be more kind of like energy outbursts on the 21st, when Uranus and Jupiter come into exact conjunction, which only happens every 14 years. The last one happened in 2010. So it could very well represent, because 2010, I just no, 2008 was when the economy kind of came into trouble. But 2010 was pretty significant, actually. I remember 2010 being quite significant. It was a good year for me, actually, in certain points. The first half of the year wasn't, but the ending part was actually very productive. So the last time Jupiter and Uranus come into conjunction, there was productivity. But we're going to get into that chart, because I'll give you the exact date of when they last come into conjunction. But anyway, I feel that when Ponsbrook touches the ecliptic, yeah, I just feel that's going to be quite relevant, and especially in the sign of Aries, because Aries is an active energy ruled by Mars. So that's what I'm saying. It's very active. The solar eclipse itself is an active energy, an active, expanding, transmitting energy. And Jupiter conjunct Uranus is an expanding, transmitting energy. But it's all around kind of science, you know, or science and philosophy, or the philosophy or science, or, you know, it could even be to do with the healing industry, maybe in the science industry. But anyway, let's look at Ponsbrook's on the 21st, when he comes into an exact parahelion. So, you know, it would have come through the ecliptic, but it's still parallel to Jupiter and Uranus. So I just feel this is another active day. And yeah, this is when he's coming into an exact parahelion, where he will come around the sun. So originally, you know, another thing, originally Ponsbrook, when he came into the solar system, he came through Ophiuchus. I think the last time he came through Scorpio. I can't remember now. I've got that written down somewhere. So that's when he reaches parahelion on the 21st, the exact day that Jupiter and Uranus come into an exact conjunction. So I just feel that's going to be very significant as well. Now, the closest approach to Earth that Ponsbrook makes will be on the 2nd of June. And we will have the Sun, Mercury, Jupiter, and Uranus all in Taurus at that time. And Uranus will actually enter into Taurus in May. So it's quite an inventive time from here. Well, even from the lunar eclipse, going right up into June, I just feel that's a period to watch out for activity. I just feel that there's going to be a lot of activity over the 3 months between March and June. This is the active period, but obviously this is the peak, the solar eclipse, Pons Brooks crossing over the ecliptic, Jupiter and Uranus coming into an exact conjunction. It's all very relevant. And also another thing I wanted to bring up here is that this year we almost have 5 eclipses instead of 4. Now, 4 is your usual, every year we get 4 eclipses. We always get a solar eclipse following a lunar eclipse. But this year we have almost 5. In October will be the 5th. Now, the last time we had 5 eclipses was in 2020. So that was a very significant year because we had the Pluto-Saturn conjunction in the January, which only occurs every 30 odd years. And then we had the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in the December, which is considered the great conjunction and is very significant to the economy and to authority or legislation. The last time Pluto and Saturn came into junction was in the 80s. I think it was 86, 87, So it's all very relevant. I just feel that there's a cycle here that's going to emerge, something we're going to recognize and know and go, oh my God, do you know what I mean? It's a connection. And, but the last time Pons Brooks came into parahelion with the sun was in 1954, actually, 22nd of May, 1954. Now, the orbital period for Pons Brook is 71 years or around about 71 years. So the last time the perihelion took place was on the 22nd of May, 1954. The time before that was January 1884. And before that, September 1812. So if you want to research history at those dates and what events took place around those times, do you know what I mean? You can do that. So yeah, very interesting solar eclipse we have, and a very interesting year for eclipses in general. Like I said, there's almost 5 eclipses this year. So I don't think it actually quite makes a full eclipse, but still, it's partial. But we did have 5 full eclipses in 2020. So there's a partial, there's something here connected to 2020 as well. So I think it's time now we moved on to, let's move on to the chart wheel, the new moon solar eclipse chart wheel. So here we are at the new moon solar eclipse chart. So the new moon will actually begin on the 8th of April at 19:20 in the GMT time zone, at 14:20 in the EDT time zone, and the new moon will begin on the 9th of April at 4:20 in the AEDT time zone. So as the new moon begins, the sun and moon will be at 27 degrees. Now this new moon will begin 3 minutes after the lunar eclipse has reached its maximum. So I think the lunar eclipse actually goes on for about 3 or 4 minutes. So it's just coming out of the totality. It's still going to be kind of dark, a dark energy. Do you know what I mean? So Chiron, who's the wounded healer, has been in conjunction with the North Node since, must be for about a month now. But as you can see, Chiron is now separating from the North Node. I mean, they're still in conjunction, but they're not in exact conjunction anymore, which will probably be a relief. At the moment, Chiron is conjunct the Sun and Moon, and also coming into conjunction with Mercury, who's in retrograde at present. So we have a little stellium here as the new moon begins. And I would say, wow, you know, I think there's a completion of the cycle. I think completion of the Chiron cycle. And in Pisces as well. I mean, this all revolves around the care industry, nursing, alternative therapies. But really, you know, like Pisces is hospitals, because Piscean energy, it's more about the nurse, the carer, you know, the hospitals, the depths of our spirituality, empathy, compassion. And, you know, this little stellium is enshrined to the goddess Pallas, who's at 0 degrees in Ophiuchus. And Pallas was actually 0 degrees in Ophiuchus at the time of the lunar eclipse as well. So Ophiuchus is actually the doctor, but also the herbalist. And Pallas is the pattern recognizer. She is also all about justice and clarity. There is an easy flow here. There's definitely a connection between our doctors and nurses here. So either some of us are coming into our gifts around about the solar eclipse, or we're going to come into realization that we have gifts in the either in the medical or healing world, like alternative therapies, or some of us may feel we need to turn to alternative therapy, you know, so there's something going on around that anyway. But also what's quite relevant here is Juno, the goddess Juno, who's still transiting through Leo. She's retrograding at the moment, in opposition to this Saturn-Mars conjunction. So Saturn-Mars conjunction, I mean, that on its own is very relevant because it can be a competitive energy, but it can also be a very destructive energy. Now, stelliums can be a competitive energy as well. But, you know, this is very military, this energy here. And 16 actually is the number of Mars. You know, so that has to be taken into consideration as well. So it's giving Mars more power. And 15 is actually the number of Saturn. You know, Juno represents what we're committed to, very committed to, regardless. There's definitely a compromise here in what we're committing to, or we're coming to realization that what we're committing to is quite destructive. And they are aiming a T-square towards the goddess Pallas at 0 degrees. 0 is the number of Pluto, who's in Saturn's sign of Capricorn at present, and will be for quite some time, actually. So there's definitely pressure being put on some of us, or a lot of us, about facing up to the reality when it comes to the medical industry. So let's go back to this Martian energy here, 16, and Mars himself. Now, in Aries, who Mars rules, we have the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. They're not exact yet. They won't be exact until the 21st, when Pons makes its exact parahelion to our Sun. And Pons is about here right now, 6 degrees away from Jupiter. 8 degrees away from Uranus, and 8 is the number of Saturn. But Saturn in Aquarius can be a little bit more innovative, you know, not so rigid, not so conformed, if that's the word. But Saturn's a little bit more freer in Aquarius. But conjunct Mars at these numbers, like there's definitely, and Aquarius represents humanity, humanitarian. I would definitely say, yeah, things are kind of, there's an escalation here of something. And it can be connected to wounding, you know, but there's still a lot of confusion around this energy because Mercury is in retrograde. Plus the solar eclipse causes a little bit of confusion. And because there's a little stellium here, it can also be a confusing energy. But we do have the sun in Chiron and the moon actually. Well, the sun is actually in the center. So the sun can be kind of eclipsed by these, by the moon in the north node here, and by Chiron and Mercury in retrograde here. So, you know, there is going to be an eruption, but I don't think we're going to see it straight away. I feel like it's going to be an instinct, or it's going to take time to absorb if it's informational. And in Pisces, I wouldn't say it's so much informational. I feel it's more emotional. So it could be in our personal lives, it could be emotional eruptions where the energies are just so intense and are triggering certain energies in our own charts. But, you know, because solar eclipses are kind of external events or represent external events globally, it could also be an emotional eruption globally. And this is military. This is a military aspect. When Mars and Saturn come together, it's militaristic. It can also be kind of like authoritarian or dogmatic, breaking free of that, breaking free of like a spell. Because 15 is all about purging. It's very karmic, this energy is very karmic. So it could be there's something coming to the light, but it's not breaking through because the sun is eclipsed. And not just by the eclipse itself, but also by this little stellium. It's triggering. So we're getting insights. But also with this opposition with the black moon Lilith, who's at 8 degrees, which is also the number of Saturn, in opposition to both Venus and Neptune in Pisces. I mean, wow. I mean, this is like a breaking down of relationships, letting people go that we're not on, that we're not resonating with. And this, though, this opposition is normally, you know, feeling uncertain about the future. So there could be some kind of division going on. Some people are probably trying to hold on to loyalty and commitment. But maybe there's a backlash now that's occurring. I feel there's like a backlash, and it's to do with clarity or justice. I just want to get into also this Saturn, this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction as well. So this is how Uranus and Jupiter will be. I mean, there's only 2 degrees between them now. So, you know, they're already taking, like their energy's already taking effect and has been for a little while now. But let's look at the chart for when they come into an exact conjunction, which only occurs every 14 years. So the last one was around about 2010. And I think I've got a chart for that as well. So Jupiter will come into an exact conjunction with Uranus on the 21st of April at 4:55 in the GMT time zone. So it will be on the 21st also in the AEDT, and it will also be, I think it will be in the EDT as well. But it may be on the 20th in the EDT actually. So I'm not sure what the time difference is at the moment because our clocks have just gone forward. So almost 5 hours. I would say, yeah, it could be on the 20th, kind of just before midnight in the EDT, or it is coming into the 21st. So this exact conjunction will take place at 22 degrees. Now 22 is actually the number of the Earth itself. So it's a very earthbound energy. And, you know, they say 22 is all about higher consciousness. And it is to a point, but we have to overcome like the earthly restrictions to reach that level of consciousness. And it is possible with Uranus here. But in Aries, it's like, yeah, it's a very challenging energy though. This conjunction is going to be very, very challenging. It can also represent like the areas of science and technology, philosophy, a changing of traditions in some form or way. And, you know, this conjunction is also involved in a kite aspect, but with the Black Moon Lilith. But it's not strong because to me, the Black Moon Lilith is really stronger when she's in conjunction or in opposition to a planet. And at present, she is going to be, or at the time of the conjunction, she will be in opposition to Mars at 0 degrees in Pisces. So Mars is losing his power, you know. But it is also emotional eruptions. And also in opposition to Neptune. But just it's in separation. So maybe the fear of like, or not so much the fear, but you know, being uncertain about the future is kind of dwindling away as Mars is in eruptive emotional energy kind of surfaces and overcomes any fear that we may have. So I feel the 21st to be very, very significant because on this day, you know, the comet will come into an exact perihelion with the sun. The eclipse energy will be subsiding slightly, although the eclipse energy does kind of last for about 6 months. But I feel like here, you know, maybe there's kind of some sort of like energy drain because eclipses do tend to drain our energy. And the Black Moon Lilith, when she is like in opposition or conjuncting a planet, it normally drains an energy and it's a triggering energy on top of that. So I just feel, yeah, there's, it could be, you know, pride could be involved in this as well, like self-pride. There's going to be some emotional eruptions definitely happening on this day. The new moon solar eclipse is definitely relevant, but I just feel it'd be on the 21st that we'll kind of get our heads a little bit around things that have occurred around the eclipse. I feel like we're becoming into a little bit more clarity. And of course, you know, Pallas would have retrograded back into Scorpio at this point. And you know, Scorpio is the investigator, and 5 is a very shifting energy. And it's about perspective. In Scorpio, I would say there's an investigative energy that's all about, there's a shifting of perspective here. And also this stellium is still ongoing. The sun's moved on now though. So really Chiron is in conjunction to Venus and Mercury is in conjunction to the North Node, but it's still a stellium because they're still connected. They're still close enough to be a connection there. And some will be at 2 degrees Aries at this point. So the sun in Aries is lighting up the Aryan energy as well when it's at 2. And so it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 altogether. So there's kind of like a rebirthing energy going on here as well. So the energies on this day again are still kind of like emotionally disruptive. And let's look at the chart for when Jupiter last conjunct Uranus. So the last time Uranus and Jupiter came into conjunction was on the 8th of June in 2010. And literally at midday here in the GMT time zone. So here they are. They occurred in Pisces that time. And when I kind of researched a little bit of history, there was a lot of stuff going on with our waters, funny enough, like oil spills, there was volcanic eruptions. There was quite a lot going on. Also very disruptive. It was a very disruptive energy. But they were both in quincunx to Mars. So it was a time when we were kind of like more empathic and not so confrontational. There was no need for it. The moon was in Pisces. So it was a very emotional time, but not kind of triggering in the respect of like, you know, it was a very self-focused time when I look at this chart. You know, we had the sun in Taurus, Mars in Leo, in quincunx to Uranus and Jupiter, conjunct in Pisces at 8 degrees. 8 is the number of Saturn. And Saturn was at 3 degrees in Virgo. So very analytical. But there was definitely a lot of expansion going on. But Saturn was actually in opposition to Uranus and Jupiter in Pisces. So yeah, I just feel that, you know, there was a lot of discipline at that time, but very much it was all about self-focus. So whereas this time round, I mean, we have had an eclipse on top of this conjunction as well, and a comet going over. So this time, I just feel it's more triggering, whereas back in 2010, it was more about self-focus and productivity in what we were interested in. But, you know, when it comes to global events and stuff like that, I know there was a lot of military stuff going on. There was a lot of stuff going on with volcanoes and earthquakes and stuff like that. Yeah, it was quite a year. I should have wrote it down. It's just been such a busy time, so I'm really sorry because normally I like to give a little bit of history as well. But yeah, that was the last time. So if you really do want to research yourself what went down in history, did I keep that page open actually? Let me have a look. Yeah, so it's really hard actually to get information online now. Yeah, I was just looking here. I looked for a lot of different sites, but it wasn't really saying anything. Do you know what I mean? So in 2010, we had the common year starting on Friday, blah, blah, blah. Oh, where did we get to? Right. Multitudes of natural and environmental disasters, such as like the Haiti earthquake, deep water horizon oil spill, the Chile earthquake, the swine flu pandemic. All right, 4 new members joined the Economic Cooperation and Development. in Chile, Slovenia, Israel, and Estonia. And advancements occurred in technology, such as the release of the iPad. Now, that's definitely uranium. That is definitely a uranium Jupiter conjunction kind of gadget, you know. It was also the launch of Instagram and the first successful tracking of antimatter. I laughed when I read that. Successful tracking of antimatter. Mm. So it was also the International Year of Biodiversity, International Year of Youth, and a year from combating poverty and social exclusion. Really? Right, so Dubai was officially opened. Football team was attacked in Canada. Africa Cup of Nations. The attack was perpetrated. Okay, right. Religious violence erupts in Nigeria. 7.0 magnitude earthquake in Haiti. We just said that anyway, didn't we? Yemen declares open war against them. And it was also the longest annular solar eclipse of the third millennium. So that was interesting. Chadian civil war. I think I said that right. Honduras withdraws from ALBA. I don't know what that is. There was an assassination in Dubai. There was a division here. Oh yeah, I remember when that flight went down. Cyber attacks. Winter Olympics held in Vancouver. Trains collide. Wow, there's quite a lot going on. So I'm looking at, yeah, this is another one. South Korean Navy ship carrying 104 person sinks off the country's west coast. Oh, Julian Assange leaks footage of a 2007 airstrike. That was when that happened. It's quite volcanic ash from several eruptions of Iceland. Yeah, I mean, I remember the Icelandic volcano going off in 2009, actually. But it did go off again, I think, in 2010. Yeah, this is another one. Deepwater Horizon oil drilling platform explodes into the Gulf of Mexico. Horizon oil spill, I remember that. European sovereign debt crisis. I mean, you know, this can all be coincidental because there's always stuff going on anyway. But it's always interesting to see what was occurring up to the lead up to the Uranus-Jupiter conjunction. So as you can see, you know, it was in Pisces. So there was a lot of stuff going on with water and flowing things like volcanoes and earthquakes. You know, so that makes sense. And it was the longest eclipse of the third millennium as well, which was quite interesting. So yeah, if you want to do more research, you can. Yeah, it's not easy. I used to get loads of information a few years ago, not so much anymore. So there you have it. I'm going to leave it there. And I'm sending you all peace and much love. Take care.